The honourable member for North Island, Powell River, Veterans Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise in this House today to discuss a question I asked a few weeks ago of the Minister of Veterans Affairs. The reality is, last year there was a motion put forward in this House, an NDP motion by the member from Courtenay, Alberni, that proposed that when we look at the reality of so many veterans in our country, we want to make sure to support them the best way we know how. And the best way to do that is to make sure that any unspent resources that is not spent at the end of the fiscal year would move to the forward into the next fiscal year. So that motion was voted on in this House and actually was one, happily, that was voted on unanimously. It was good to see the support of all members of the veterans who have served our country. Sadly, this motion was voted on positively, but the implementation and the action was not taken. And in fact, that meant that last year, $381 million was not spent on veterans as it should have been, in my opinion. For me, I just believe that veterans of this country that served us so fearlessly deserve better. The minister answered the question that I asked by saying, and I quote, "Benefits are demand-driven." End quote. Then on February the 10th, multiple articles came out letting Canadians know that there were 44,000 veterans waiting on information about their disability benefits. That this was a list that was at the end of September, which was a 10% increase from 6 months earlier. That is quite a startling number. We know because veterans have told us that long delays are stressful. And to change these delays, it seems to me what is needed is more resources. More resources that go into things like finding staff that can actually help deliver these services so that those backlogs aren't getting so long. In fact, what was interesting to me is that the minister, when interviewed on this particular fact, said in one article, and I quote, "Of course, I always want more money, but what we have to do is deal with the money that we have and make sure that we put the system together as efficiently as possible." End quote. So the minister is saying, I would always want more money. And yet there was a motion in the House that said if unspent dollars from the end of the fiscal year are not used, let's forward it and put it in to the next year's motion, or the next year's fiscal year. So that was the NDP motion. That was something we all voted for in this House unanimously. And then we realized that in the 2018 to 2019 allotment for Veterans Affairs, it was actually $127 million less than the year before. And at the end of that same period of 2018-2019, $100 million, actually over $100 million, was left unspent. The Veterans Ombudsperson's report stated very clearly that wait times are the single greatest complaint that they receive. So today I'm here to ask the question again. Why are the resources promised to veterans not being forwarded, and when will action be taken? Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank my colleague who brought up the issue that is very important, not only to myself and to our government, to all Canadians, of course. That is the well-being of our veterans, members of the Canadian Armed Forces, and their families. I know that this House supported the motion in 2018 to end lapsed funding. We all want to ensure veterans and their families have access to the supports and services they need when they need them. The well-being of veterans is a top priority for myself and our government. That is why we are committed to do more to support veterans and their families. Our benefits are demand-driven. No matter how many veterans come forward, when eligible, they will receive the benefits. The process guarantees that whenever a veteran comes forward, this year, next year, or beyond, they will receive those benefits. The resources are there for them at all times. Mr. Speaker, over 90% of Veteran Affairs budget goes to funding veterans' programs and benefits. Every day, over $5 million in disability benefit goes to veterans. Last year alone, we spent $4.4 billion directly on benefits and services for veterans and their families and other eligible recipients. This is $1 billion more than the former Conservative government. This year, we expect to spend approximately $5 billion directly on services and benefits for our veterans. Changing how we account the lapsed funding will not change that, and nor will it change our priorities. The veterans community is evolving and expanding along with its needs. Veteran Affairs is evolving too. For example, we opened 10 offices to provide better services face-to-face with veterans and their families. These offices, of course, were closed by the former Conservative government. We increased the amount of benefits provided to veterans with service-related injuries and illness. And we introduced Pension for Life as an option for them. We also introduced 8 new and enhanced initiatives to better support the seamless transition to life after service. Our evolution in services and benefits and success is reaching veterans and their families has led to a significant increase in volume. Disability benefits application rose alone in 2015 from 29,000 to last year 54,000. That's almost double the increase. To respond to this increased demand, Veteran Affairs increases its program budget. This guarantees that no matter how many veterans come forward or when, they will receive the benefits and services that they are entitled. It's worthwhile to note that last year, 98% of the estimated funds available was spent to support veterans and their families with the benefits and services they needed. That's 98%, Madam Speaker. The remaining 2% that the honourable member is identifying provides VAC the required flexibility to ensure that sufficient funding is available to support all veterans who are approved for those benefits. Therefore, there has been no impact on our commitment to help veterans or the ability of the department to deliver the services required. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I mean, I'm sort of shocked. I would not disagree in any way. We know that the Conservatives did not support the veterans the way that veterans demanded, and that was totally something that I witnessed and saw. And the reality is the new government, who keeps comparing itself to the last government, still has not hired back the amount of people to actually do the work as the Conservatives removed. So that's definitely something that maybe that lapse funding could help out with. I just have to say, though, 44,000 on the wait list for disability benefits, 44,000 veterans waiting. And what we're hearing from the government is, oh, don't worry, you will receive your benefits. But the question is when and how long and why is this process taking so long? So I hope that this government will take this serious, treat veterans a little bit better, and look at the opportunity to follow the motion that was in this House to make sure that lapse spending gets given back to that particular group who needs it so desperately, especially when the wait lists are this long.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And because Veterans Affairs Canada's program and services are demand-driven, we will never be able to predict 100% accurately the exact funds that are required for the program for the upcoming year. Rest assured, however, that there will always be money available to support those who are eligible for these benefits. Moreover, we will continue to adapt and provide programs and services to the changing needs of veterans and their families. We will review them and see where things can be improved. Make no mistake, Madam Speaker, we always want to provide faster and more efficient and higher quality service for our veterans, and this government will never cease in our efforts to improve the lives of our veterans and their families. Thank you, Madam Speaker.